Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name's Rachel and we're going to do my July wrap up today. So in the month of July, I read 15 books. Yay! Brought to you by audiobooks and short novels. I'm pretty proud of the amount of books I read, even though a lot of them were pretty short. I only read 2 actual books off of my physical TBR. But a handful of the ebooks I read, I did also own. Maybe in the future, I'll go in like lowest to highest rated or vice versa. But just for the ease of everything right now, I'm just going to go from what I started July with to what I ended July with. So let's get into it. The first book I read was Dark Across the Bay by Ania Ahlborn. This is the second book by this author that I've read, and it didn't disappoint. I gave this one about a 3.75. I do fractional ratings. Sorry if you hate that, but I did give this book a 3.75. It was really fun. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but that's because I didn't read the blurb. I just saw her name and said, I want to read this. I've read one other book by her. It was called I Call Upon Thee. This is an author that I do want to read everything they've ever come out with. So this is the new, I think their newest, this is her newest release. Came out this year. And this was a really good time. It's about a family of 4. We have a mother, a father, and then their son and daughter. And they are kind of falling apart as a family unit. The son is about college age. He is wanting to go off to Thailand to live the experiences that his best friend who tragically died was not able to experience. So he's wanting to go off and his mother is wanting him to stay home. The 14-year-old daughter is also kind of removed from her family. She feels like they don't understand her and stuff like that. And then there's marital tension between the husband and the wife. So to solve all that, they decide to go to an Airbnb on the coast of Maine for a 3-day weekend. It does not solve these issues. Things happen. Not good things happen. They are very isolated. The only way they can get to the mainland, I forgot to mention, this is kind of on a little island off the coast of Maine. The only way they can get back to the mainland for help or groceries, food, is this little dinghy boat that they have to row over there. I think it has a motor, but it doesn't function super well. So yeah, things happen in the house. They're very isolated and they don't work very well together and things happen. It's a little bit spooky. It's mostly, honestly, this book is more of a thriller than a horror, but it was really good. 3.75 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is, this is a true crime book, so it's going to have a really long name. Lady Killers, Deadly Women Throughout History by Tori Telfer. Have you ever noticed that true crime is like, here's the title and here is the other title that tells you everything this book is about? That's really annoying and I hate that. Lady Killers. This was a really fun time. I listened to this on audio. I think audio is a great way to consume this book. It is kind of what it sounds like. It goes through history. Like some of the women we look at are from hundreds of years ago. Some of them are only from about 10 years ago. But it goes through history highlighting the different violent serial killers or just killers that were female, because female killers don't really get highlighted, and we're always focused on the male killer when in fact there is a lot of female killers that have been around making their rounds. Not just poisoning people either. There are some gruesome things in there. All in all, this was a really fascinating, really well done book. It was quick and to the point. Yeah, it was kind of like fun facts, but yeah, it was good. The next book I read was an ebook that I got from Kindle Unlimited while I had my free trial. This is The Backbone of the World by the one and only Stephen Graham Jones. I loved this. This kind of had cosmic horror vibes mixed with nature, and I loved it. So we're following an indigenous woman. Her name is Millie. She lives on this plot of land in Blackfeet Nation in Montana, and her husband has recently been put in jail, and she is just trying to maintain the land while he is away. And basically there's a lot of prairie dogs that are infiltrating her land and digging up a lot of holes, and she wants to get rid of them, and she tries many different ways to get rid of them. While all this is happening, we have a character that has moved into the trailer just across the way from Millie. And this is a very mysterious woman, but Millie begins to develop a friendship with her. So those two plot points kind of intersect to a weirdly cosmic horror novella. It was really good. The next book I read was an audiobook, another true crime. So let me read the title. Oh, this one isn't that long. It's Unmasked, My Life Solving America's Cold Cases by Paul Holes. That was difficult. This is true crime, but also a memoir. This is about Paul Holes' life as a detective and the different cold cases that he picked up and attempted to solve, including the Golden State Killer case that he was instrumental in solving. This was just a really well done memoir / true crime book. I highly recommend this. It's not too gritty in the details with the different cold cases that he was trying to solve, although it does get into some of those details. It's not exploitative of the victims or their families. I thought this was really well done. 5 out of 5 stars. Excellent if you're wanting to dip your toe into true crime and don't know where to start, because this was just really accessible. Again, highly recommend the audiobook. Next up, we have The Children on the Hill by Jennifer McMahon. I have only read one other book by her, and that is The Winter People, and I loved this. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Much like The Winter People, I gave The Children on the Hill 5 out of 5 stars. I do think I like The Winter People better, especially on a creep scale, although McMahon's books are never really meant to scare you. There were a couple of creepy scenes in The Winter People and not so much in The Children on the Hill. But this was excellent. Another win for Jennifer McMahon. We are following 2 different timelines that do intersect. So the first timeline is 1978. Our main character is a teenager, like 13 maybe 12. She's really young. Her name is Violet. She goes by Vi, and she lives with her gran and her brother, Eric. And her gran is a highly esteemed doctor at this mental hospital, and they live right nearby the hospital. And Vi and her brother, Eric, love monsters, monster hunting in the woods. They're great kids. And one day, Gran comes home with with a child named Iris, who is Eric and Vi's age. And she says, "This is your new sister." She doesn't remember anything about herself. And Vi and Eric are kind of tasked with watching Iris and making sure she's adapting to life okay. And Iris is just kind of strange. She has scars. Like I said, she doesn't remember anything about herself, but she wants to. And her and Vi develop a close friendship, and Vi promises Iris that she will do some investigating to try and find out more about her. So that is 1978. Present day, we are following Vi, but she has a new name. She goes by Lizzie now. Her brother Eric goes by, I think, Charles or Chuck now. And Iris is nowhere to be found. Lizzie, Vi / Lizzie, has made a name for herself as a monster hunter. She, explores cryptids and different monsters around the United States. I think she's in her 60s, something like that. It's present day. So she goes back to Connecticut where the mental hospital was, to see if she can find out anything about where Iris might be. And all we know is that sometime in 1978, something bad went down and caused Iris's disappearance. And we see these 2 timelines kind of intersect. This was fantastic. I really, really loved this book. 5 out of 5 stars, honestly. I gave it a 4.75 on Storygraph, but honestly, 5 out of 5 stars. This is very, very loosely based on Frankenstein. So, very loosely. I would say more inspired by Frankenstein, but excellent book. The next book I read was the audiobook for I'll Be Gone in the Dark, One Woman's Obsessive Search for the Golden State Killer by Michelle McNamara. I was interested in picking this up for a while, but reading Paul Holes' book talking about the Golden State Killer really spurred me on to go ahead and check out this book. So this is a well-known and beloved book in the true crime community. This was a really good book. It was a little more disjointed, it felt like to me, than Paul Holz's book, even though his book was more of a memoir and this is solely focused on finding the Golden State Killer. I would not recommend this to people that are trying to get into true crime or have never read any true crime. There's a lot of super gritty details in this, but overall I did really enjoy it and gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Next up is, where are my books? All the books that I read for Summerween. So the first book I read was The Bloody Tracks of Bigfoot by David Irons. You can see my full thoughts on this in my Summerween vlog, but basically this is a very generous 3 out of 5 stars for me. This is about this group of filmmakers, cast members, whatnot, in the 80s that are going into the woods to film their very own slasher movie. This book did feel like an 80s B movie slasher, and it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. The kills were really fun. I enjoyed all of it, all 170 some pages of it, until like the very last 3-4 pages. The ending was horrible. I hated the ending, and it kind of ruined my overall enjoyment of the book for me, but 3 out of 5 stars, sure. The next book I read was the audiobook for a Goosebumps book by R.L. Stine called Stay Out of the Basement. And basically this is about these 2 kids, and their dad is a botanist that's recently been fired, and just for like the weird experiments that he'd been doing. And so he starts doing the experiments in the basement and tells the kids, you know, stay out of the basement. I'm out of coffee. Anyway, of course the kids do not stay out of the basement. And this is just really fun. I love anything that's like sciencey and planty. And this was just a fun time. 5 out of 5 stars. This book did set me off on a bit of a Goosebumps kick for Summerween though. So the next book I read is Monster Blood, also by R.L. Stine. And this is more of a 3 out of 5 stars for me. This is about this kid who goes to move in with his great aunt that he's never met in a town that he's never been to. And he's lonely and upset, and he meets a friend, and they go to the toy store and they buy this jar of slime called Monster Blood. And this Monster Blood just grows and grows and grows and makes everything around it grow too. This was fun. It didn't really have a great punchy ending like I'm used to with the Goosebumps books, but it was still really fun. The next book I read is The Worm and His Kings by Haley Piper. This was fantastic, and honestly, the more I think about it, the higher my rating for it goes. This takes place in New York City in the 1990s. It is a cosmic, subterranean, cultish horror book, and it is fantastic. This book follows our main character, Monique, who is a trans woman she is homeless and living on the streets of New York City, and her girlfriend, Donna, disappears. And Donna is not the first woman to have been disappearing off the streets of New York City. So Monique takes it upon herself to go find Donna. She finds herself delving into the underground of New York City's subways, and even deeper, she finds this religious cult that worships this being called the Worm. And there's monsters, there's singing, there's some religious fanatics, and this is just such a good book. There were a bunch of quotes in here that stood out to me. One of them I'll read for you real quick. It says, "We'd tear the universe apart for the people we love, but sometimes we forget to love ourselves." I just think that is beautiful. There were so many other more beautiful lines in here as well, and this is something that I want to revisit. I want to read again. I feel like it might even have more merit and more value knowing what to expect, because yes, very good. The next book I read is yet another Goosebumps book. It is called Say Cheese and Die. It is about this group of kids that break into this creepy old man's house, and they steal his camera, and they start taking pictures with the camera, and the Polaroid comes out, and they're like, "That's not what we took a picture of." And the camera's predicting the future. This was very Twilight Zone-y, which is my bread and butter. And it was just so much fun. 4 out of 5 stars. The last book I read for Summerween is The Rotting Within by Matt Kurtz. This was a 5 out of 5 read for me. This is about our main character, Kinsey, and her 2 kids. They are fleeing Kinsey's abusive husband, Paul, and Kinsey reconnects with her estranged grandmother, who owns a bed and breakfast out in the middle of nowhere, to see if she can stay there. And Grandma says, yeah, sure, come on down. All you have to do is, work for me, help keep up the bread and breakfast, keep everything looking nice. And that's all. And so Kinsey's like, great, we'll be right there. So Kinsey and the kids get down there. Grandma says, don't go near the woodpile. Don't go to the 3rd floor. We have 2 long-term tenants up there. They take care of themselves. No need to bother them. Those are the rules. Of course, the rules get broken, and of course, things happen. This book was creepy. It was just so much fun. It was so fun. It was so easy to read. Had a great time with it. 5 out of 5. Highly recommend. The next book I read is my very first Darcy Coates book, The Haunting of Rookward House. I'm not going to go too in-depth here because I did give a full spoiler-free review of it. So check that out if you want to know my full thoughts on it. But this was a 3 out of 5 star read for me. I had a lot of fun. This is about our main character, Guy, who's cleaning out his mother's attic one day and finds deeds to Rookward House in her name. And he's like, hey, we're low on finances. We need more money. Me too, Guy. We need more money. Why don't I go out to Rookward House, spruce it up, sell it, and we'll be good to go. So he does, and it's haunted. Pretty typical. This was really fun. It was a pretty average haunted house story, but it was cozy, and I had a good time. I don't think I would necessarily recommend this book, but I am excited to read more Darcy Coates in the future. The next book I read, and the second to last book for the month, kind of broke up all of the spooky, thrillery things that I had been reading. And that book is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. And this book, okay. So we are following our main character, Faye, and we're approaching like the 5-year anniversary of the death of her beloved husband. And she is still traumatized by this death, and she has not moved on romantically yet. So 5 years after this tragic accident, we are with Faye, and she's like, I think it's about time for me to get back into the romance game. So, a couple one-night stands, maybe find a legit relationship in there somewhere. She meets this guy, Nasir. He's lovely, he's super nice, and he is patient with her and willing to take things as slow as she wants to. Now, Faye is an artist, and Nasir comes from a lot of money and a lot of connections. And basically, he's like, hey, there's an art show going on put on by this really famous curator, and they need another artist. I put your name in, and they want you to be there. Why don't we fly down to my dad's mansion? It's a mansion, which is near the art show, and you can work on your art and just have a vacation. She's like, great, sounds good. So they fly down there, and Nasir's father, Alim, is beautiful inside and out. And Faye, as she is having this super long vacation with Nasir at this house, finds that she's starting to fall for his father, Alim. This book is so messy and so good. Like, it is just as beautiful as the cover and the title. Like, I love this book. Easy 5 out of 5 stars. This is not a traditional romance by any means. I can see why a lot of people don't vibe with it, because it is a woman falling in love with her kind of boyfriend's father. So yeah, pretty messy. Kind of taboo, well, not kind of, very. But this book for me was just such a beautiful examination of humanity. Like, humans aren't just good or bad. They are complex and multifaceted and do good things and have good hearts, but also do bad things and hurt people, whether they mean to or not. And this book didn't have a villain. This book just existed and presented humans as humans. And I love that. It was beautiful. Akwaeke Emezi has a way of writing super beautiful, poetic things without it being over the top and flowery. And it just, yeah, gorgeous book, gorgeous cover, gorgeous writer. Excellent. 5 out of 5. 10 out of 10. So then I read Hide by Kirsten White. This book is about our main character, Mac, who is highly traumatized from the murder of her entire family. Her father murdered her entire family and then killed himself. Yes, it's traumatic. And boy, we do not forget how traumatized Mac is during this entire book. Mac makes the point of being like, flashbacks to my traumatized childhood. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. Yeah, that was pretty bad. If you can't tell, I did not love this book. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. The 2 is solely there for my enjoyment of the first half of the book. So, the premise is Mac is homeless and in need of money. And she sees that there's this hide and seek competition put on by this athletic company or something. They're like, 6 days, play hide and seek against 13 other people, and winner gets $50,000. And Mac's like, yeah, sure, whatever. So we have 14 characters, and 6 days playing hide and seek. Maximum of two people get out per day. And of course, this is a horror book, so like we all know what's happening to the people that are getting out. No, this was not good. No. The first days 1 through 4, so the book is split up by each day, and days 1 through 4 I enjoyed. I was like, okay, I see why this isn't everyone's cup of tea, but this is fine. This is fun. I'm having a good time. Then day 5 happened, and day 5 I think was supposed to be like the climax where the tension is high and the stakes are even higher and reveals are happening. But my God, that was the most boring part of the book. And I didn't care. I didn't like any of these characters. I guess Ava was okay, but like she wasn't like fleshed out very much at all. Most like all of these characters were not fleshed out. And I was just so bored. And it had such a good concept too. Even like the concept, the bones of this book were strong. But good God. Honestly, I could have dealt with the boring parts if the kills hadn't happened off page. We're reading a horror book. Why are the kills off page? The only kill that was on page was one of the stupidest deaths I've ever read. So pointless. So dumb. I was annoyed because the bones of this book were so good. Spare yourselves. Listen to the other reviewers. Don't read it. So, with that is my July wrap up. We had some high highs, we had some lows, and but overall, I had a great reading month. I hope y'all did too. If you participated in Summerween, I hope y'all had a great Summerween, and I will see you in my next video telling you about my August TBR. Bye!